Leaders and healers, gamers and claimants, ladies and gentlemen from around the universe, from around the globe, from around the community, welcome to the Power, Purpose, and Passion podcast. I am your host, Anthony Cheam, speaker, life coach, author, trainer, musician, singer, songwriter, friend, podcast host, ready to give to you everything I've learned in the past 20 years of studying, attending, experiencing in this life, this beautiful life called life, to give to you the best of what I've learned in those 20 years of really studying this and really honing the tools, the strategies, the insights, the wisdom, everything I've learned in experiencing this life and giving of myself to the people around me through my business, through my personal life, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a family man, as a community member of this beautiful earth. So thank you for joining us on this podcast. This is a podcast where we help you claim your power, clarify your purpose, and cultivate your deepest, widest, and highest passions possible. So ultimately, you can show up as a better, upgraded, more advanced, enhanced version of yourself. Ultimately, showing up as that best version for other people so you can contribute the best of what you've learned and give back, because that's what it's all about, to literally experience and live a fulfilling, constant fulfilling, meaningful, passionate, powerful, purposeful life in the service of others. And this is what this podcast is all about. It's all about giving to you some great tools, some great insights, so you can live, you can go home, wherever you are, sitting at home or working out or listening to this in your car, wherever you are, listening to this actively or passively. I just want to give to you. If I were your best friend right now and you were going through some of the toughest times, what would I tell you? How would I tell you? What strategies would I deploy to help you enhance your life, to help you see this problem as an opportunity? So thank you for joining us. And today's podcast is all about what to do when the unexpected happens. What to do. And I know I'm reading a book right now, and it's a book I've read a few times called The Obstacle Is a Way. And it's a great book by Ryan Holiday. It's a great book it's basically a stoic philosophy, a Greek philosophy of exactly how to turn calamities into opportunities. How can you turn adversity into an advantage? How can you turn problems into a search for solutions? How can you turn something that's bad into something that is going to serve you? And I often say to people, one of my foundational, fundamental beliefs about my own life is this: everything at its core is serving my evolution. And I just put an Instagram post on Instagram this morning, and it was a quote from the book The Obstacle Is a Way by Ryan Holiday. If you haven't read it, it's a fantastic read. It talks about many different famous people, philosophers, politicians, leaders from every different field of endeavor, from inventors like Thomas Edison to people like, the Greek philosophers like Epictetus and a few other names that you may or may not recognize if you're not into Greek philosophy. But the point of the matter is, he does talk about something where if you've lost your money, at least you didn't lose a limb, right? It's good. If you lost your house, at least you didn't lose your family. If you just lost your job, at least you didn't lose your eyesight. And I remember hearing one Zig Ziglar on an audio. He talked about how he spent several $1 million to keep his heart beating or his life. I think he was the first guy in history to get a mechanical heart to help him live another few days or a few weeks. And if he spent a few $1 million on a artificial heart or a fake heart, what is your healthy heart worth? And you start to look at, wow, wait a second. If a guy like that could spend several $1 million on an artificial fake heart, what is your healthy heart worth to you? A guy that I was reading about lost his limb in a construction accident, and they paid him several $1 million for a useless leg. What is your healthy legs worth? Or someone that lost their eyesight I think they were using some eye cream or some skin cream, and the cream got in their eyes and their one eye went blind, and the person was rewarded for an insurance policy that was worth $1 million or something, and for a fake and useless eye that doesn't work anymore. What are your healthy eyes worth? So it's good to kind of turn those, one of the best ways to turn your calamities and opportunities. And as Winston Churchill says, an optimist sees that every calamity into an opportunity. A pessimist sees every calamity and every opportunity. So one of the best ways to see an opportunity in every calamity, or turn your adversity into an advantage, is to see yourself, you know what, at least right now, if I lost my job, at least I still have a home. If I just lost, if I lost my family, at least I have my health. I know, I mean, again, back in September, I lost my mom, totally out of this world. And many of you that listen to this podcast have heard me talk about this before. I showed up at her house because she made, with a phone call, and I drove over, canceled my dental appointment because I just had this gut feeling something was wrong. I showed up and she was laying there, and I had to perform CPR on her, and I was in tears, talking to the person on 911. It was just a crazy, crazy day. And I look back at that and I go, as much as I would not wish that on anybody, man, do I have plenty of insight, of wisdom to help those who have lost a loved one, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a best friend, whatever it might be, our job. And out of that experience, I extracted tremendous amount of wisdom, compassion, patience. And if, for example, someone, your boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife, or your father, mother has hurt you, it's a great way to practice forgiveness, right? If for example, you are in a situation you cannot control, maybe the lesson there is to practice acceptance. If, for example, you're late for a meeting and you cannot control it because there's a huge car accident on the highway, it's a great way to practice flexibility and patience. So in every situation, even if you can't control it, there's a virtue within it that you can practice. So in every situation and every experience that you occur, positive or negative, you can extract something from it. And that is your responsibility. And that is up to you to extract that lesson. And for me, as I said, anytime something bad happens, like, the past few months have been rough, or since my mother died, with all the stuff that we have to do in terms of, closing her estate, I don't see it as nothing bad or stressful. I see it as a learning experience to practice resilience. It's character building experiences. I practice compassion and patience and flexibility. I'm stronger. I'm wiser as a result of it. And I wouldn't necessarily, would I give everything to have my mom back? Yeah, but the fact that I can't have my mom back, the second best thing is to extract the best lessons best virtues that I can learn from an experience like that. And so you must do that. If you want to live the best, most fulfilling life, then it's best to kind of reframe your experiences at times and say, what can is this really the worst thing that can happen? And what's good about the situation is a great question to ask yourself. In fact, even in that book, the last chapter I just read this morning was about Thomas Edison. And I guess his workshop went on fire. And one of the people said, hey, your workshop's on fire. And he went there and he was calm about it. And then he asked someone to get his wife and his son or something. I think it was his wife and his son. And he said, tell them to come quickly, because this is one of the greatest fires that you'll ever see. So people were shocked, going, you want me to tell your wife and your son that your workshop's on fire, and the thing that you want me to tell them that it's the greatest fire you're ever going to see, that they're going to miss the fire, not, oh my gosh, my workshop's on fire. So he didn't see it as something bad. He saw it as, it's not that big a deal. We can rebuild it. And so I remember in another book, in a Tony Robbins book, I think it was Unlimited Power, and he talked about how this one CEO hired a president or a vice president, and the vice president lost that company $10 million. And I guess the president went to the CEO and said, I guess you want to fire me? He said, no, I just spent $10 million teaching you an education, teaching you a lesson. Please tell me you learned it. And the guy said, yeah, I learned it. He goes, good, don't ever repeat that again. So he turned something that made that company lose $10 million, but he turned it into a $10 million education. And so you can turn whatever experience in your life into an education, into an experience, into an opportunity to learn something, to practice a virtue, whatever it might be. And let me tell you something. I have to say, this particular strategy, this particular insight, has served me. Out of all the principles and practices I've learned, I'm constantly practicing this particular strategy with clients, with myself, with tough experience, that, unexpected experiences that do come that you don't anticipate. I certainly didn't anticipate my mom dying that morning. I certainly didn't anticipate, the 2008 crash that happened. Certain things I don't anticipate within my relationships, my spirituality, my business. And all of a sudden, a few clients will just leave for no reason. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And all of a sudden, and then I can learn something, like, as an example, this summer, because summer's slow for my business, I don't see it as, oh my gosh, I don't get all crazy and freaked out. Oh my God, am I going to have enough money? No, I see it as an opportunity to spend more time with my children and really connect at the deepest level with my children. So everything, I'm always doing it with something. And so when people come to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I getting my next paycheck? What's the good in this? and I'm spending more time with my children. I can tell you right now, yesterday, as an example, I went to a baseball game with my son, and I spent the whole day with him. We left at, I think it was 11 a.m. in the morning, and we went to a client of mine, rented a box at the Blue Jays game, and she invited us, and it was a great game. So we took the go train down to the Jays game, and it was a 4-hour game, and we had the best time, really connecting at the soul deepest level. No agenda, not looking at my phone, not planning my next day and my future. Totally with my son. 4, 5, 6, 7 hours with my son, and then on the ride back was a great game. He enjoyed it. We had fun on the GO train, laughing, playing, listening to music, telling each other jokes. And when we got home, we went for a bike ride, a good 6, 7, 8 kilometer bike ride, and we were laughing, playing games while we were on the bike, playing silly games and stuff like that. And it was the most amazing time. And when I got home, I literally went to sleep that night going, I didn't achieve anything in terms of my personal achievements, in terms of my business, but man, did I achieve the greatest accomplishment, and that is really being an example of love and presence for my son. And let me tell you something, that can't be quantified. I'll never get that time back. And so it's something to look at. When you think something's actually bad, that is your perception. How can you shift your perception and transform that perception into something that serves you so you can learn something deeper, practice some virtue? So hopefully that helps you guys. Any words of wisdom there, Cam, as I complete this podcast here?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that you talked about this, because it happens to everybody. No matter how good you're doing, something will happen in your life that you almost, the first question, I mean, for myself, I ask myself is, why me? Why now? Why did this happen? I'm doing everything right, or at least I think I am. And so you're just kind of like, that's like the biggest question mark. Yeah. Like, why is this happening? And like you said, everything that happens in your life is an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn. And when you are in that place, it's almost like if you knew why, then you wouldn't learn the lesson. The big question is there for you to discover. And in the discovery of why that happened, or what lesson you have to learn, that's what really has the teaching sink in, or whatever. Sure. And I'm just glad you talked about it, because it really happens to everybody. It happened to me recently, just with computer parts that came in that didn't work, and I'm just upset about it or whatever. But it's really just an opportunity to practice patience, an opportunity to almost enjoy the little things, because when things go unexpected, you have a chance to let go of it all. And then in that letting go, you're just like sitting in a chair is entertaining at that point, because it's peaceful for once. You've let go, And that's exactly it. Practicing acceptance for things that you cannot control. Just recently, I talked to Cam about this. I won't get into the logistics and the depth of it, but about reprioritizing my life and saying to myself and saying, all right, what's the most important things in my life right now, where I am right now? And the first thing that came up that I wrote down was my spirituality, God, and the relationship I have with the divine. That is number one. That also includes the greater relationship I have with the divine, the spiritual, God, love, whatever you want to call it. The greater capacity I have to tune into that energy, that divinity, into that level of awareness, the better decisions I'm going to make with regards to my health, my wealth, my happiness, my fulfillment, my business, my relationships. So that has to take priority over everything else. Anything outside of that first priority, I delete it, I ignore it. So I pay attention. I pay close attention to my spirituality more so than anything else. That includes my health and my happiness, my fulfillment, and number two, my second priority is my relationships. My relationship with my wife and my kids. Those are the most important relationships. I mean, I could have a thriving business that's making millions or billions of dollars, but I don't have I'm not tuned in on a consistent basis with the divinity within me and without me. I have a horrible relationship with my wife and kids. That $1 billion doesn't mean anything to me. So my top priority is definitely my spirituality, tuning in, connecting with that part of me that's infinite, that's limitless, that's intuitive, that knows more than any that created me, right? And then bringing that version of me, that specific, unique version of me, into this external world, and then expressing that to my wife, my kids, my clients, my friends, my family, my colleagues, whomever, strangers on the street. And then my third priority is my mission and my vision.
And until those 3 priorities are actually fully engaged at the standard that I desire and the standard that I expect of myself, everything else becomes secondary. Watching TV or whatever it might be, or little problems that my inner cynic or my ego makes important that aren't important, I literally delete them. I become good at just deleting them because they aren't that important, truthfully, at the end of the day. And so that's also a good way to kind of look at your life and say, what are really, with this experience, how important is it really in the grand scheme of things, in terms of my priorities, in terms of, I mean, if I were to die in the next 24 hours, this person not giving me the right order in my fast food takeout. I went home and they didn't put the right amount of fries in my thing. And we've all been there. We're like, oh, I got to go drive back. And then it's not, I'm like, really, is it that big a deal? And yet we all get caught up on those things, or we don't get the right hot sauce, or we have too much hot sauce, or they didn't put onions on my burger. I asked for onions, or whatever it might be, right? Those little things we have to learn to literally delete and not sweat and move up. So hopefully this podcast provided that insight for you guys to upgrade and enhance your life and make it better for not just yourself, but for the people around you. So to your continued upgrade and evolution, live it up with power, purpose, and passion. God bless.